Welcome to Golden Ogre's Final Fantasy Guide Chapter 6. Chapter 5 was a short one, but with the class change, you won't have anything holding you back when it comes to equipment. Magic will be available as you level up and earn magic points along the way. For now, we need to get more clues to progress and eventually find the location of our next fiend. We're going to start our adventure by visiting the town of Gaia, located north of the large desert. There's a ton of information in this town, so let's check it out. We'll start with talking to the people, then finish with the shops. This professor mentions a city to the south. Apparently they speak a language he's not familiar with. And this guy kinda looks like Dr. Une from Melman if you recall. Looks like we'll need to visit this city at some point, but not right now. The witch gives a clue about broomsticks talking backwards, but she's a little late. We figured that out in Matoya's cave earlier. Do you have great power? Sure do, broomstick guy. This guy talks about a tower in the Yanakarm desert. He seems to think it might be real. We'll have to investigate that too. This professor speaks about a castle in the sky where sky warriors flew about. We'll have to take a note of that, I guess. In case you came here before Cardia Islands, this guy lets you know about the Castle of Ordeal. A fairy at the spring was kidnapped. That doesn't sound good. We'll have to see if we can help somehow. So in the east, they saw a shiny object flying. That's not great information, but I'm sure it's important, so we'll take a note. This guy tells us a fairy can draw oxyale from the spring. Well, we know the fairy was kidnapped, so maybe we could find out more on that later. This professor seems to recall a college that studied Leffinish. Sounds like a language, and probably related to the town to the south we heard about. So there we have it. This pirate stole the fairy, bottled her up, and sold her to a caravan. We'll have to locate the caravan to see if we can still buy it. A quick walk to the east and you'll see what is probably the spring. Okay, that does it. That's a ton of information. Now let's go visit some shops. Now at level 17, you won't be able to cast level 7 or 8 magic, but you can still buy it so it's ready when you've gained enough magic points. The Black Magic shop has Ice 3 and Break. Ice 3 is amazing, and Break instant kills, but rarely ever works. It's worth noting that the other two spells are Saber and Blind. Unfortunately, Saber doesn't work on the NES version. Both Blind and Break are usually just considered a waste of a turn. The White Magic shop has Cure 4 and Harm 4. Cure 4 completely heals a character and can be a lifesaver. Harm 4 will annihilate any undead type enemy, but with Cure 4s in stock, don't resort to it unless you have to. In the armor shop you can buy gold bracelets. These could be used for the black and white wizards. It's the best armor for a while, so pick them up if you can afford them. Hopefully you grab the one from Castle Ordeal. Any character can equip it as well, so keep that in mind. The Pro Ring prevents death attacks, so it's a must for everyone. Until we find ribbons, it's the only protection we have. I usually opt to keep the Zeus Gauntlet for casting purposes though. The weapon shop just has a cat claw. This overpriced butter knife has a high hit rate, but isn't really worth buying. If you have the extra gold, you can consider giving one to your black wizard. The knight, ninja, and red wizard can equip it, but it won't be that strong for very long, so hold on to your cash. Heading up a little ways, you find another pair of magic shops. They both have 3 out of the 4 of your level 8 magic. The missing magic is found elsewhere and you'll definitely want them. As for this selection, Fate is actually the familiar Holy spell which deals damage to all enemies. Wall defense against all 8 elements, but ribbons also do the same thing. It targets one character as well, so in the end, it's really not that useful. Expert is supposed to remove elemental protection from enemies, but it doesn't work. So this is the one you skip when filling out your magic. Level 8 black magic is a bit confusing if not useless. Stop and zap do the same thing except zap kills the enemy while stop paralyzes. Neither are really worth the cost of a level 8 magic point. Quadruple X, as I like to call it, kills one enemy. They only have less than 300 HP, which is rare at this point in the game. It's another spell that sounds scary but doesn't actually help much. That's it for Gaia. Let's investigate some of our clues. Going south a bit, you see the tower they're talking about. If you walk up to it, nothing happens. Guess we'll have to come back. Now to find our way to this city that speaks a strange language, you'll notice a little landing area. Take the long journey and you'll find the city. Speak to anyone and they'll just repeat Lupa. Well, we'll have to sort out their language another time. Before you leave, you'll see an opening to the east. Take the walk and you'll find the last pair of level 8 magic. We're gonna come back to this place later, so unless you're way over leveled and overflowing with gold, don't worry about the magic yet. Okay, now for the next clue. Oddly enough, the word east was used, which can be confusing. From Gaia, east just means keep going right and wrap around to the west. That's our next location. Either way you go, you'll see the town, but you'll need to land a little ways to get to it. Just head up and use the canoe on the river to pass between the mountains. Entering this new town, the woman seems to be overly excited about her legs and actually having them. Kind of odd. The soldier asks if you have Oxyale. The answer is no. The sage drops some knowledge about mermaids living in a shrine over 200 years ago. Clearly something bad happened, but there's talk of a shrine. Seems important. The Mohawk dude speaks of a caravan master. We already know from the pirate that the ferry is sold at the caravan. Just a grumpy pirate. This guy talks about the shining object. Maybe we can find Cope for more information. This switch seems impressed that we have legs. So we know they talk about mermaids from 200 years ago, but why be surprised? It's almost like mermaids are normal, but they haven't existed in their lifetime. Weird. This lady says her father runs the caravan and is having a closeout sale at the oasis to the west. We'll head over after for a visit. This professor tells us none other than Dr. Une knows Lefinish, but he needs the slab to teach it. That's perfect. If we can find the slab or go to Dr. Une in Melmond, we can understand the people in the village we visited earlier. The lady by the inn tells us that there are treasures in the shrine and a cryptic stone plate is one of them. Sounds awfully like a slab if you ask me. We'll need to find the shrine. The dragon gives you approval since we finished the class change before coming here. We found Cope. He thinks the object was a robot and is located near a waterfall. We'll put that on the to-do list. The sage reiterates that 200 years ago was good times. This lady apparently made a submarine to save mermaids but needs Oxyale. That's impressive. Well, we don't have Oxyale yet, but once we do, we can hitch a ride and find the shrine. It's all starting to come together. Let's take a quick peek at the magic before we leave. Anti-Rub and Heal 3 are not that useful. You'll find yourself using Harm 4 and Cure 4 instead. Heal 3 doesn't heal a ton, so I tend to never use it. Anti-Rub is essentially a ribbon, so it's also kind of a waste. I mentioned Saber not working and Blind being a waste as well. I do like to fill out my magic spells regardless, so if you're like me, just buy Blind since at least it kind of works. I don't think I've mentioned this, but keep in mind that if you're playing the Game Boy Advance, the PSP, or any of the other remakes, these spells, especially Saber, all work and are extremely useful. Alright, head back to your airship and notice that river. If you follow it, you'll also notice a waterfall. At some point, we're going to take our canoe there. For now, let's head to the west to the small desert and you'll see an area with some trees. This fits the description of an oasis. To the left is a small patch of grass. Land and head over to the oasis. If you have 50k of gold, you can buy the bottle. Now at any time, you can go to your item menu and use the bottle. Pop! The fairy appears, then it's gone. Well, that's unfortunate. I think it makes sense that the fairy probably went back to Gaia where it belongs, so let's go there and see if she's there. Gaia is north of the large desert in case you forgot. Make your way back to the spring town and talk to the fairy. For setting her free, she will draw Oxyale from the bottom of the spring. Fantastic. Now we can head back to Onrak, the town with the submarine, and head to the sea shrine. Before you head back, make sure you're satisfied with your magic stock and weapons. The sea shrine can be really tough at times. Lightning spells are your best friend, and the Zeus Gauntlet should be given to someone who can cast it often like a white mage. I like to give the white mage the heal staff and Zeus Gauntlet just to blast heal or lightning as often as possible for free. This will help clear out large enemy groups and save valuable potions. Don't be afraid to cast exit to leave and restock or save your game. The first floor you see is technically the third floor. From here you can either go up or down. We're gonna go up first to grab some treasure. Be sure to grab the 2 chests, 2,000 for the bottom right and 9,900 gold for the one up a ways. It's hard to see the staircase, but it's to the top right. This will take you to the second floor. To get to the first floor, just head down to the bottom right and find the staircase. Before you do that though, you're going to want to snag some of the treasure on this floor. Just keep in mind that this room has some strong enemies, so make sure you're healing after every battle. Starting at the top, you find Opal Armor, which is the best armor in the game, but only knights can equip it. There's another piece of armor with the same stats called the Dragon Armor, which is also exclusive to the Knight class, but that's later in the game. The crescent moon-shaped room in the center holds a lousy 20 gold. Starting from the bottom left, you'll find a light axe that casts Harm 2, another useful spell. The Knight and Ninja can equip it, but it's better used as a magic spell. To the right is the Mage Staff, which can be equipped by the Ninja and Black Wizard, but it casts Fire 2, which is far more effective. The last chest contains 12,350 gold. Just to the right is another staircase that leads you to the top floor. You found the mermaids and there's a ton of treasure and information to gather. Also, there's no enemies to worry about. Take your time and check out every room so you don't miss out on any treasure or information. This mermaid mentions Daryl, who apparently just up and walked out. We actually met this person who was excited to have legs. It's kind of odd if you think about it. Why did she grow legs and why haven't the rest tried? Another mermaid explains how you're on the top floor and the Kraken, the water fiend, is at the bottom. Here's an important clue: we can unlock the Mirage Tower with something musical from the Leffinish. The rest of the mermaids are either happy to see you or worried about being destroyed. To get to the last room, you'll just need to walk to the top left and wrap around the map. You'll find an opal gauntlet and a helmet to match and the slab. Now we can take this back to Dr. Une and Melman once we're done at the shrine. Hopefully you can cast exit so you don't have to backtrack. If you have the warp spell, you can back up a few floors and leave that way too. Just restock and save and head right back in. Back at floor 3 again, head to the top left. You'll find yourself on floor 4. There's no treasure to be found, so just keep following all the paths that lead up until you find a staircase that goes up. Take the stairs again, and now you're heading back down. Ignore that room, it's empty. The next floor has 2 chests with a little bit of gold, but close enough to grab on your way down, so might as well snag them. Alright, now this floor is loaded with treasure. It's hard to know what floor you're on, but technically it's the 4th floor. If you want to grab everything, first go down and grab the pair of chests that net 15,000 gold. After that, head all the way down to the left, and the 3 chests hold some gold and a power gauntlet. Unfortunately, the gauntlet was supposed to cast Saber, but it doesn't work on the NES version, just like the magic spell. You can, however, have a ninja or red wizard equip it for a little boost in defense. Otherwise, you could skip the room if you aren't concerned about the armor or the 6,000 gold. Keep in mind that there's a hidden encounter waiting for you near the offset chest to the right. Next, you'll want to go up and grab another light axe. This chest also is protected on both sides, so heal up. Now the last room is just to the right and contains a ribbon and a ton of gold. There's a hidden encounter in the center spot just 3 steps up into the room. You can grab the pair on the left and the bottom chest without any encounter, but if you want the chest in the top right with over 7,000 gold, you'll hit an encounter trap twice. Just to the top left is the entrance to the last floor. This floor is huge, but there's no treasure, so head to the left to that giant room, walk your way through and around, and make your way to the final room where we'll fight the 3rd fiend of the Kraken. You should be somewhere around level 18 to 20. As usual, heal up to the max and make sure you remember to equip everything you found on the way. Talk to the orb to activate the battle. Kraken can hit pretty hard on occasion, so feel free to use invisibility 2 or fog and cast fast on your heavy hitters. Kraken likes to cast dark on everyone, but it's not that effective, so don't waste turns curing it. Once you've boosted up your fighters, you should be using your strongest available lightning spells. And since Kraken only has 800 HP, this battle should be over in a few rounds. With the battle over, walk to the throne, revive the orb, and use a warp to exit the shrine. 3 down, 1 more fiend to go. Now before we move on to the next chapter, let's finish a few things. First, we need to investigate the waterfall nearby. Let's take our canoe and head towards the waterfall we checked earlier. Take a look at the map and notice that you'll need to make your way northwest a bit and then down. It looks more mazy up close, but eventually you'll find your way down to the only room with a bunch of chests. Open the door and talk to the robot who hands over a cube to access the floating castle. We don't know anything about a floating castle yet, but this item will be necessary in the next chapter. The space directly past the door is an encounter, so blast a group of mummies with fire and harm spells and make quick work of the cockatrices. In the room is a line of chests. From left to right, there's a wizard staff for your black mage that can cast Confuse, another ribbon, 3 chests with a ton of gold, and finally the defense sword. Used by your knight, ninja, or red mage, it has an attack of 30 and 35% hit rate, which makes it the strongest weapon we own up to this point, but it won't be the strongest for long. Go ahead and cast Exit. Take your boat back to your airship. If you have purchased magic from Monrak, then we have no need to come back to this continent ever again. We're gonna stop at this point. In the next chapter, we have some loose ends to tie up, which includes bringing the slap to Dr. Une at Melmond and revisiting the town of Leffen. Hopefully you're enjoying the series so far. If you haven't already, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. There's not much left to go before we finish up this game, and when my subscriber count goes up, it lets me know I'm making the good content. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter.